I will give you a quick overview about the Recommended for G Suite program. What's the background? Why did we start it at Google? And also, what are the key benefits for you, the customers of this program? And then we'll turn this into a very dynamic session where we have a fireside chat with 6 of our recommended ISVs and our joint customers who will tell you a phenomenal story of how they implemented some of our ISV solutions together with the G Suite deployment and made it very useful for their colleagues and employees in the organization. And then we'll turn it to you and open it up for an audience Q&A with all our 12 fireside chat panelists on stage. So it's going to be a very exciting session. Since you've all been here throughout the entire week and attended lots of the keynotes, lots of the breakout sessions, I don't think I have to spend too much time on this topic. And probably you all agree with us, hearing around all the news, the customer testimonials that we had in Diane and Tarek's keynote, but also yesterday, and especially during Brian Stevens and Prabhakara's announcements around all the new products that we launched this week, that Google is a pioneer with regards to the shift to the cloud. And lots of your customers that are in the same boat think exactly the same way. With regards to G Suite, actually, probably you remember the number that Prabhakar announced yesterday. 3 million businesses, and all of those are paying businesses, have gone and have become G Suite customers. And when you see those car dealer slides, usually we put on the big global multinational customers, the big logos that everybody recognizes. But in fact, at Google, we also care about the small and medium-sized businesses and the mid-market businesses. And all of them have something in common. Whenever they became a G Suite customer, one thing that they've enabled is they've made their employees or colleagues more productive, more collaborative, more effective, and more efficient in their all-day professional life. And that is great. But we also recognize that's only a start. Because with G Suite, Google is not that arrogant. You can only solve so and so many business problems and make your company more productive with regards to collaboration. However, businesses are much more complex, and enterprise processes that need to be solved require also different solutions. And there are lots and lots of different technology software partners out there that actually provide exactly the right solutions for those problems, and they integrate very well with G Suite. So that's why we at Google and our global technology partnership team believes in a very strong third-party ecosystem, which we call ISVs, independent software vendors. And we've started to work with them very deliberately. However, the feedback that we got from lots of customers like you is it's very difficult to navigate the system and the entire ecosystem of third-party solution vendors and ISVs. Because you want to make the transition to the cloud, and Google wants to be your guide and your help in that transition to the cloud. However, it's very difficult to actually navigate it in terms of how to discover the best third-party solution apps. If you look at the G Suite marketplace, and I assume most of you have visited already, there are more than hundreds. There are actually more than 1,000 different ISV vendors in the G Suite marketplace listed. So it's very difficult to find the right ones for you. And we understand that you might have the capabilities, but you might not have the time to actually navigate this entire forest of ISV solutions. Then second of all, if you're the IT admin or a decision maker, you want to know actually whether those solutions that are listed somewhere and that you find somewhere in the marketplace, whether they actually work well with your existing productivity suite, so Google and G Suite. And then I think it was a very common thread throughout the entire week. I think there was no breakout session that I attended where security didn't come up as a topic. So very relevant, a hot topic, probably for all of us here in the room, the topic around security. You want to know when you buy one of those solutions, a third-party solution that might not have the big brand name yet, are those solutions actually secure? And then last of all is, we've seen it throughout the entire week, the announcements. Google is very innovative, moves very fast. So you want to have some security around the roadmap. There needs to be some alignment. Does Google actually stand behind those solutions? Lots of challenges, but at Google, the good thing is we love to solve problems. And that's why we've created this solution, which we believe is a very proper solution to your problems and the challenges that we've heard. We've created this program. It's called Recommended for G Suite, and we announced it in November 2015. What it means is it's the first time ever that Google has started to publicly endorse a subset of technology vendors, third-party solutions, ISVs, that integrate very well with our solution. You can find more about it on our website, and the short link is g.co/appsrecommended. The critical part, and this is where I want to spend some time, is what does it actually mean for you as the customer? So, what did we try to achieve with this program? Number one, all of the ISVs in this program have been vetted on a security standard so that they all meet and fulfill Google's security and compliance standards. And as you've heard probably yesterday, I think in the worst keynote, it was a very common thread. It's a very high bar that you have to jump there. Let me tell you a bit about the process. Twofold. First vetting process is internally. Google security operations teams and also our security engineers vet all of the solutions that we believe should be in this program. If they master that step, the second step is that we, Google, we don't trust ourselves enough for that even. We want to make sure that a third party, a neutral party, and we hire an external security consultant for that, is actually vetting those solutions as well. So they do some additional pen testing around the solution, and then when they get that stamp, they will be qualified from a security angle. Second element, all of the ISVs that are in this recommended for G Suite program, they fulfill our standards around integrations and also deployment practices. So there's a second guard that you have, a hurdle that you have to overcome in order to be part of this program. The third part is one of the challenges that I mentioned before. It's around the roadmap. If you watched the Prabhakara's keynote yesterday, you probably saw some of the logos that you will see on the next slide. Lots of the ISVs that we have in this program work very closely with our product management teams and engineering teams whenever we have new product launches, so that the integrations don't break, and we're very tightly integrated and try to facilitate new, very exciting integrations at the time of the launch of new Google products as well. The fourth element of the program is around discoverability, and it should be very easy for you to find those solutions if we pre-vetted them, etc. So if you're the G Suite admin on your domain, you will find them. There's a very popular section in the G Suite admin panel where those ISV solutions are highlighted. But also you have events like these where we bring in some of those ISVs, our joint customers, to tell you more about the solutions and the great deployments and experiences that our customers have. But also our sales teams and strategic account managers are actually briefed on those solutions. So you will always have persons that are very well aware of those solutions. And then the last point is, from the inception of this program, we knew we need to create a thriving ecosystem. And a thriving ecosystem means customers, means Google, means those ISV partners, but also our reseller partners who are part of our entire ecosystem and how we go to market at Google. So we've encouraged from the get-go our reseller partners, SIs and distribution partners, to actually work with us together and actually facilitate those relationships with the recommended ISVs as well. And they've built out lots of those capabilities throughout the process. And that's on a global scale. We have those resellers in all the regions, and I see some of the faces here in the room, actually. Now, coming specifically to the program, who is in the program? We've expanded the program. There's a wave 2 already, and we currently have 10 different categories that we cover with 15 different ISVs in the entire program. And if you wonder what actually made us decide on those categories, those were the categories where we saw the highest initial demand from our enterprise customers and from our SMB customers in some of the categories. So we decided to go with those categories and then found the right vendors in those categories. Since we will have 6 of them on stage with me later today for the fireside chat, I'll just focus on the categories that are not with us here on stage. In the customer support category, we will have Freshdesk as our recommended ISV. In the CRM category, ProsperWorks, and both of them have a booth downstairs if you want to visit them. In the transaction management e-signature category, we have DocuSign as our recommended ISV. In finance and accounting, more on the accounting side, Xero and Zoho Invoice as our recommended ISVs. Identity and access management, Okta and Ping, and you can visit Okta downstairs as well at their booth. And then in project and process management, Asana and Smartsheet, and maybe a special call out to Smartsheet. It's one of the ISVs that has done a phenomenal job on the integration side and seamlessly integrate with 16 different touch points across the G Suite ecosystem and our different apps. Now, we're switching gears into the more dynamic part and probably the more exciting part of the entire session. So I would like to welcome Power Tools and their customer and Dialpad on stage for the fireside chat. Excellent. So, the audience, let me first introduce Marshall Wilson. Marshall is the Senior Director of Alliances and Channel Management at Power Tools, and Power Tools is one of our recommended ISVs in the document management system category. And what that means is Drive is excellent, and probably most of you have been very looking forward to the Team Drive's announcement yesterday, but there's even more they can do with Drive, and you can turn it into a real document management system with our very integrated ISVs that we have in this category. Marshall, why don't you introduce your customer? Who did you bring with you today?
Okay. Thanks, Thorsten, first and foremost, and welcome everyone. Thanks for being here. So here today we are with one of our valued customers, Droga5, and specifically Jennifer, the head of IT.
Excellent. Jennifer.
Yes.
Do you want to quickly tell the audience what Droga5 is?
Sure.
Because I don't think everybody knows the company.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Jennifer Candelario from Droga5. Droga5 is an advertising agency based in New York. You may know some of our most recent work. We did the campaign for the Google Pixel phone that recently just launched last year.
Excellent. And then why don't we continue with you? What was the baseline back in the days when you decided to actually explore a new document management system vendor?
We were in the process of implementing a digital asset management system for our production department, and that was going to be an in-house solution. We were looking for some kind of solution that we could use with Google Drive. We had over 4 million assets, and it was almost like a black hole. So we looked to Power Tools to kind of help us manage that solution.
Excellent. Is that like a very common situation that you see, Marshall, or are there different baselines that you usually see whenever you have prospect reaching out to you and Power Tools?
Yeah, that's one of two. Usually we see two specific kind of baselines like you're talking about. The first one is companies that are investing in the G Suite but maybe aren't leveraging Drive to its full capacity and still having some kind of external document repository that they want to bring onto Drive, right? And to do that, if they're using have a large amount of documents, they're going to need help with a solution like ours to be able to keep track, organize, and track these documents, right? The second one is Drive users, current companies who have leveraged Drive, but want to go a step further, right? Not just using it for storage and collaboration, but also creating and optimizing business processes, right? Around like workflows, metadata, things like that.
Excellent. Jennifer, next question for you. What was your selection process like, and what were like the key parameters that you looked at, and what made you decide to actually go with Power Tools at the end?
Okay. Well, at Droga5, I'm fairly lucky when it comes to vetting out different vendors. Executive management has left that on my lap, and they let me kind of do my own exploring on who I want to work with. So Power Tools was one of a few different vendors that we looked at, and basically what we do is a lot of demoing, and we have 1 or 2 teams kind of work on it in-house, and we kind of just do the same project, but on different platforms and see which one we think the rest of the agency would like to work with. Once we've done that, and trust me, we annoy our sales rep because we constantly ask them to extend our demo for another week, and then a month, and then 2 months. We then make the selection and decide, who we want to use, and Power Tools was the one we decided to go with.
Excellent. Is that a very common decision-making process that you see, Marshall, or what are
extending demo or extending trials? A little bit more than we would like, yes, but people take their time, right? That's usually kind of a given scenario that we see, right? It was great working with Droga5 in the beginning and a lot of our other customers because they do understand Google Drive. They do like Google Drive, but they want to take it further, right? Some of the, key takeaways are the fact that using Google Drive with Power Tools, it is Google Drive. It's in Google Drive, and we can use it to do things like, I was talking about these business processes, right? Not even around documents, but maybe like onboarding new employees, quote proposal, contract management, things like that, yeah. So.
Excellent. And I think we see a screenshot actually of your solution in place. And most people that I talk to and customers, usually at the events, they never see the difference between Drive and Power Tools.
Yeah, it's pretty
integrated
funny
with
actually.
Drive.
A lot of our users don't even realize that they're using Power Tools. They just think it's Drive, right? So all for the better, and yeah.
Excellent. Jennifer, next question for you. What were the specific use cases that you helped to address with Power Tools at Droga 5? And what was the impact at the end of the day? Because I know we've been using it already for some time.
So we had the opportunity to release our global brand guidelines to the entire agency globally, like I said. And we wanted to release a document once. We didn't want to share it. We kind of wanted everyone to keep the same folder structure. We wanted to be able to go in and make changes, and people would be able to go back into those folders very easily, very non-complex. And so we decided to launch Power Tools at that time, and we decided that we would, write this really great email about we were launching our new brand guidelines and that we were going to use this new platform, and we sent out the instructions, and we maybe got 3 tickets back out of 700 users who had difficulty installing it and get moving with it. So it was an exciting time for us.
And that's for a document management system. I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
As a figure. Thanks. To wrap it up, Marshall, what are the key features that we haven't heard from Power Tools in this use case that Droga 5 uses you for? Is there anything else that you want to add?
Yeah, so I mean, the great thing about Power Tools is that in terms of the way that we can leverage Drive beyond kind of just the storage collaboration aspect, right? Being able to apply metadata to documents, launch specific workflows based off of conditional metadata, to do things like approve the document, retention policies, manage versions, convert documents, move documents. All of these processes can be automated with Power Tools in a very user-friendly way, and the users have the ability of interacting with Power Tools through an interface that they know and love, right, which is Google Drive. So, I mean, I guess the main takeaway today that I want to give you is that Power Tools is Drive, everything is in Drive, and we're the only document management solution that manages it in Drive, right?
Excellent. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Marshall. We'll open it up for the audience later, so we will see you on stage. We're switching categories completely, and from document management systems to UCaaS, business communications, or unified communications as a service, what it stands for. And I'm very, very happy to actually have Craig Walter, who is the co-founder or founder?
Co-founder.
Co-founder and CEO of Dialpad, of one of our recommended ISVs in the communication space, here with us today. Welcome, Craig.
Yeah, thanks for having me here.
Absolutely. And I saw you roamed the floor already yesterday. It's an exciting conference, right?
Yeah, it's great. Particularly, so we're former Googlers who used to work on the Google Voice team. So to see how much the Google Apps or G Suite ecosystem has grown is really impressive.
Excellent. Who did you bring with you today? Who's your customer?
Yeah, I brought Radley Myers, who's the VP of Sales at Bets Recruiting here in San Francisco.
Excellent. Welcome, Radley.
Thank you very much.
Good to have you, a local.
Yes.
Could you tell us a bit about which kind of Dialpad features made the solution very promising for you for Bets recruiting in that case, and also a bit about like how you used it, which parts of it, and what was the impact at Bets recruiting?
Absolutely. So we are a recruiting team which is heavily on the phone, but we have 6 offices globally, and we're constantly meeting with candidates, clients. So our team was pretty much strapped to their desk if they were going to use their phone. So when I started talking to Dialpad, realizing that no matter where our team was, we have a young team also, so they like to sit at the couches at the front, at the tables, at the bar, at the coffee shop downstairs, wherever it is. So knowing that they could do their job effectively, have their calls log, all the integrations really helped us to make sure that efficiencies and productivity was still high, no matter where they were working from home or whatever. And then texting is huge for our company, and knowing that our team can not use their personal phone number to text. They could text from the number that a candidate or a client already knows. We send about 7,000 of those a week, and I wouldn't know that if it wasn't for Dialpad Analytics. So it's been really, really awesome to be able to see the productivity from our team continue to grow.
Excellent. Craig, next question for you as a follow-up maybe. What does Dialpad bring to the table? I mean, you know Google very well, you know G Suite customers very well. Why should they all be thinking about Dialpad?
Yeah, so going back, this was a perfect example of the anywhere worker, right? And once you're, and we saw this again when we were at Google building the Google Voice platform, is we realized as companies move to the cloud for the productivity suite, for their email, documents, calendar, et cetera, to then still be tied to a desk for their phone makes absolutely no sense. You've kind of empowered people to be productive from anywhere on any device except for the phone. So our whole mission was to kill the desk phone. In fact, we have billboards all over that say it, but kill the desk phone and really have a super integrated product. So you sign in with your Google G Suite, single sign-on. Instantly, your address book is synced, your company directory is synced, and you can see on the little screenshot there, when I'm talking on the phone to someone, it'll show like the last 3 emails I've exchanged with them, the last 3 Drive documents we've collaborated on, upcoming calendar appointments, and it just makes for a really super integrated for the Google G Suite user, and it's built in Google Cloud Platform as well, so it has unlimited scalability, it's built by former Googlers, and it has all that security and reliability that we've heard all about this week.
Excellent. Thank you, Craig. And maybe for the audience, there will be multiple of our recommended ISVs. In fact, most of them are actually built on GCP as well. So if you have any questions around like scalability of GCP, please feel free to ask those questions later on as well. Radley, back to you. You alluded to it to some extent before, but maybe on a higher level. Can you speak to how communications worked at Bets Recruiting and also how Dialpad actually supports your anywhere workers?
Absolutely, yeah. So communication is pretty constant. Once again, recruiting, most people we're recruiting have jobs, so we're not getting callbacks during 9 to 5 business hours. So a lot of those calls come at 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. And we were missing those calls before. So with the Dialpad app and knowing that number is the same, it can link up to your phone. It allows for communication, for text messages, for all of those things to happen in real time and not kind of get bogged down and slow down our process of helping people find a new job or fill headcount on the client side.
Excellent. We stay with you. Next question, because telephony touches everyone in the company. And Bets Recruiting might be a bit of a smaller company, but still everybody is very concerned about telephony. And we know usually that no big IT transformation process, and especially then when it concerns the telco infrastructure as well, goes without flaws. Are there any learnings, or what advice would you give other IT admins with regards to that? And you see it probably a bit more from the user perspective.
Sure,
there.
yeah. We're a young company. We've only been around about 6 or 7 years, but we've tried to replace our telephony. This is the 3rd time, and the first 2 times were really rough. So I had very low expectations going into with Dialpad, honestly. And so the team there was really great. They helped. I think the biggest piece of advice that they helped me with was rolling it. Telephone is such an old, like Craig was saying, people are really used to it. They're stuck in their ways. They see a phone, and that's the way it should be and should always be in their minds. So getting people, change management, getting people bought in, we worked really slowly. We brought in, some power users, got them bought in, had them start to train everybody else. Our CEO, once she was running around being like, Dialpad is awesome, like, this is great, it kind of got people on board. For us, it was really working slowly into it and showing off all the great features that I kind of talked about earlier that, helped kind of avoid any issues or mitigate the issues with, any big IT change.
Excellent. I guess all of your colleagues are probably happy that you tried it for a 3rd time then.
Yes.
And made it work. Thanks. Craig, last question for you. And I know you've been under the pressure already of Kramer, so you only have 30 seconds to answer this one. What makes Dialpad unique, and why should everybody consider Dialpad? What's the differentiators, the big ones?
I'd say the biggest differentiator is we launched in 2015, so we didn't have to build for this past legacy system of when people used to spend 9 to 5 sitting at a desk. We basically were able to see how people were working in the cloud, how people were working with their mobile devices, how people were working and how we thought the future of work would be. So we were able to build for that natively, and we don't have any of this legacy kind of like technical debt of 10 years of supporting desk phones and trying to move them to the cloud and bolt things on. It's ultimately completely built from scratch in the cloud, for the cloud, entirely tailored to be a seamless experience with Google G Suite.
Excellent. Thanks a lot. Thanks for, please applaud, or join me in applauding, sorry, our first group of panelists. And we'll see them later on again for the audience Q&A. And I would love to welcome on stage our next group of ISVs, recommended ISVs, which will be Virtru and Lumaps. Yeah, all good. That's you.
Thank you, Torsten, for that brief introduction. I'm Jeb Cedar. I'm the general manager for Lumaps, and it's a great pleasure to be here today to introduce one of our favorite and largest customers, which is Veolia. And I have Lucy Liu all the way from France here with me to join us today. So thank you also to the audience, the Friday afternoon stalwarts. It's very impressive to see all of you here. Just 2 words about us. We're a 4-year-old company. We're born in France, and we are a corporate and social portal that offers enterprise collaboration and improves communication with our employees. Louder, thank you. We're recommended by Google. We're very proud of that. And we're to be part of their ISV family. Just last Tuesday, we won a prize at the AT&T Park for innovation, also awarded by Google, and we're thrilled with that. Now that's when you guys with the yellow shirts are supposed to stand up and do the wave. Okay, thank you very much. So Lumaps improves employee interaction, just like that, and it's everything you need to go to work. So if you want to offer employees or collaborators or stakeholders essentially a boundless intranet, one that is intuitive and informed all at once, we strongly suggest you consider Lumaps. So I'm very excited to be here and introduce Lucy, as I mentioned. We're very pleased with the very thorough introduction of Lumaps they've done at their company, which is an enormous company that she's going to tell you about. So please join me in welcoming Lucy Liu.
Thank you, Jeb. Thank you, Torsten, for having me. I'm very happy to be here. Hello, everybody. My name is Lucy Liu from Veolia. I would like to start with a brief introduction of the group and its activities. Veolia is the world leader in water, energy, and waste management services. Today, we have more than 170,000 employees in 50 countries worldwide. As an example, here in the United States, Veolia is present operating in 24 different cities, such as New York City and Los Angeles. About 3 years ago, Veolia took the first step in the digital transformation with G Suite. And within a year, 80,000 employees were live. So from then, we started to transform the way we work by introducing innovative cloud applications. At that time, Google sites were already being used to share internal information. So when we started to thinking about a new intranet with our HR department and our communications department, we had some key challenges in mind. First and foremost, we needed to embody the One Veolia vision, having everybody speaking the same language. You might ask, what does that mean? It means that news need to be delivered the same way across 50 different countries that the group is operating, okay? Then we need to provide our users easy access to their Google working environment. They should be able to find documents, business applications, and contents that are relevant to them in their own language. And all this should be made available from a single entry point. This single entry point that we called the home site should be capable of aggregating all the information from the Veolia Google working place. So you might have noticed that we weren't just trying to build a new intranet, we're trying to build a whole ecosystem of internal websites and services. After having considered several options, we have decided to choose Lumaps, mainly for its capacity of supporting multi-language content, for its native integration with G Suite, and its powerful search engine. Jeb, maybe you want to talk something about the video?
Jeff, I think actually we see a screenshot of how you use it at Veolia, right? That's an actual screenshot, I believe, the rendering that we have on the slide.
Yes, what you're seeing here on your right-hand side is actually the homepage of our home site.
I would suggest in the interest of time that we actually skip the video for now, and if somebody's interested, they would visit you at the booth and see it there. Lumaps in action, because I think it would be very interesting for the audience as well to see, just hear, so what was the actual impact then at Veolia after you implemented it?
Yeah, so our new intranet that we call One-to-One went live in May 2015. So this is it. This is our home site, the homepage. Our initial target audience was 40,000 users from 9 different countries. We reached that goal in just 3 months. Today, in 2017, each of our 90,000 active users has, by default, personalized information based on their profile in the Veolia group directory. In addition to that, they have the possibility to customize the contents in their own personal space by bookmarking favorite applications and by subscribing to news feeds from other websites, intranet sites. Webmasters had the possibility to choose between Lumaps or Google sites, depending on their needs. From a communications point of view, users from different countries can see top-down information published by the headquarters. And bottom-up information sharing is made available as well by the home site. So thanks to the success of this project, we're now using Lumaps as one of the standard solutions for intranet sites. And One-to-One has certainly contributed to making our group more collaborative and more digital.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy. And I know Veolia and Lumaps is such a great success story, and it's also at scale because your rollout is so large in terms of licenses and employees using Lumaps all across the world. Jeb, I would be curious, because I know that your team, and especially Eli, the CTO of Lumaps, is always coming up with new ideas and like builds new integrations with G Suite. There's some use cases that I know that you fulfill nowadays that are actually not used by Veolia. So what's new? Is there anything that you want to double click on?
I think it's might be worth mentioning that effectively the innovations continue at Lumaps. We're very proud of that, and as some of you may know, one of our main functions that we offer is a social network for corporate purposes. That's something that Veolia has not yet chosen to use. They may do so in the future, but other customers have had a lot of success with that to improve actually the direction that Lucy was just describing. That is that it decreases the isolation maybe in a large organization. It improves both horizontal, vertical, and bottoms-up communication and creates a stronger community. So that would be one thing. Another would be Team Drive was mentioned, I think, by Torsten earlier today. It's obviously a great improvement for the Google Drive solution, and we've adapted Lumaps in order to work along with that, and we're very pleased with that. We, too, can help in a completely open system, provide additional security in terms of document management so that the community remains the owner of the document, not the individual, which can obviously be helpful over time.
Excellent. Thank you, Lucy, and thank you, Jeb, for all those insights around Veolia and Lumaps.
Thank you very much.
We are switching categories again from one category that touches almost everyone in the organization, corporate portal, to another topic, and I mentioned it before, security is one of the hottest topics nowadays. And I'm very pleased to have Charles Gold here. He's the CMO of Virtru, our recommended ISV in the encryption category. Hi, Charles.
Torsten, we all good? We all good? All right. Thank you, Torsten. So now I figured out the microphone, I can introduce myself. So my name is Charles Gold. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Virtru. We're a business privacy and data security company. So on top of G Suite, we make it very easy to add encryption, access control, and DLP to G Suite applications. And with me today, I'm very pleased to be joined by Bill Doherty. He's the VP of IT and Security at Omada Health. And Omada Health is super cool. They're literally saving lives but through corporate wellness programs that are data-driven. But I won't do it justice. I'll turn it over to Bill to explain what he's doing at Omada.
Thank you very much. Omada is a digital healthcare company. We are focused on obesity-related chronic diseases, preventing them, primarily type 2 diabetes. It's estimated that over 80 million people are at risk for that disease just in this country, and it is almost 100% preventable. So we have a digital program that combines digital scales, wearable technologies, an online application, health coaches to help people relearn behaviors to eat better, exercise more, lose weight, and ultimately live a healthier life.
Excellent. And welcome, Bill.
Thank you.
I would be curious, and probably the audience is as curious as I am, why did you choose to actually start researching email encryption providers for Omada Health, and what use cases does Virtru solve for you?
Sure. So as a healthcare provider, we're a regulated company, and email is the bane of the existence for most healthcare providers because it's the easiest way for protected health information, PHI, to leak out of your company. We had a solution that was a gateway product, meaning that emails were leaving the company would get scanned, and if that solution thought that it contained something sensitive, it would encrypt it. The trouble is that that operated as a black box, meaning we couldn't customize the rules, and the end user didn't actually know if the email had gone out encrypted or not. The other big problem we're trying to solve is because it was a gateway solution, the email still stayed unencrypted in the user's sent mailbox. And so we looked at that and said it wasn't secure enough as a method for protecting our participants' very private information.
Excellent. Charles, maybe a follow-up question for you. With regards to your customers, I know you have so many customers, and lots of our largest G Suite customers are also your customers. Why are they adding Virtru to their G Suite domain?
Yes, so privacy has become an incredibly hot topic in virtually every industry. So we really see in our thousands of customers two primary drivers at the highest level. So it's either regulation, so HIPAA or CGIS or FERPA or any of these regulatory regimes or data residency that you see around the world. So that's probably half of our customers are choosing us for that reason. The other half is what I'd call business privacy. So we've got media companies who are choosing us to protect source information, entertainment companies using us to protect scripts, manufacturing organizations using us to protect manufacturing plans in their supply chain. So it's either business privacy or regulation.
Excellent. Bill, I think you alluded to it to a certain extent before, but I think what would be interesting is what were the major benefits that you've received out of switching to Virtru from the gateway solution before?
Yeah, so Virtru is a very cool product in that it runs on the client side. It runs with a browser hook, and that offered certain benefits to us. First of all, it gave the user control over whether or not to encrypt a message or not. And when they do choose to encrypt it, it gets persisted on their side in the sent mail, also encrypted. But it's also a very good educational tool in that you're able to write rules around for it to flag what may be sensitive information. And if somebody hits send and forgets to turn Virtru on, the browser plugin will come up and say, hey, I think your message may be sensitive because of these parameters. And the default behavior then is a button that says send secure. So not only does it increase the security overall of our mail platform, but it helps educate our end users as to what actually constitutes sensitive or private information.
Mm-hmm. And if you, just as a follow-up for you, so what are the features that are most valuable from Virtru for you?
Number one was the rules engine. Being able to craft rules specific to our data. We know that like our reports are probably 80% of the possibility for information to leak out in an unsecured manner, and they follow a set pattern. So I was able to tailor a rule specific to what our data looks like, and anytime a report gets emailed, if the person generating it and sending it didn't already flag it, it's going to get flagged and sent secure. The other is the browser plugin gives the end user the ability to set things like additional controls like disable forwarding, expiration dates, and if they make a mistake, they send it to somebody and they didn't intend to, they can instantly revoke that message themselves. They don't have to get an administrator involved.
Excellent. Thank you, Bill. Charles, last question for you, because I see people from Virtru, mostly on the engineering product management side in our building, walking in and out all the time. Can you share some of the things that you're currently working on that we might see from Virtru with regards to our integrations very soon?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing which is relatively new, but is in the market today, is our customer key server. So we see many customers with a desire to host their own encryption keys on their premises, in a private cloud, in a public cloud. That really gives them exclusive control of their content. So that's one big thing which is in market today. Things that we're working on include our integration with Drive, which is in beta, that allows you to protect files that you store in Drive and have those protections persist regardless of where those files are shared. And then secondly, we're working on encrypted storage onto GCP. So for organizations that finally want to migrate all of those files and data that they've been storing on-premise to the cloud, but for regulatory or business privacy reasons need to encrypt it, we will soon have a solution in that space.
Excellent. Thank you, Charles. And I thank all of you for being on the second group of the panel. And we're rotating again. And I would like to invite AODocs and RingCentral on stage. Thank you. So next to me, we have Stefan Donze. Stefan is the founder and CEO of AODocs, and AODocs is one of our recommended ISVs in the document management system space as well. Happy to have you here, Stefan. Who did you bring us today as a customer?
So with me is Rosemary Ercy. She's the lead IT collaboration architect at Seagate. So a few words about AODocs. So AODocs has been created in 2012. We're a document management platform built on top of Google. Actually, we started even before Google Drive was officially released, and with the vision that we could combine the ease of use of Google and the scalability and all of the Google-ness of Google Drive with the requirements of enterprises about control and processes in document management. So I think today AODocs is the kind of combining those two worlds together to bring, to let the enterprises apply their compliance, their business processes, their document control, while enjoying all of the ease of use and the flexibility of Google Drive. And I think Rosemary will give you a few examples on how they do that at Seagate.
Excellent. Welcome, Rosemary, and good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Full disclosure for the audience, Rosemary and I have been in those type of panel situations before, and I can highly recommend that whenever you have a question with regards to AODocs or G Suite, please feel free to reach out to Rosemary because she's extremely knowledgeable.
You have a hard time stopping me sometimes. Yeah.
I know.
I know.
We make it work today. So I think everybody's curious. What was the baseline at Seagate? Seagate, everybody knows, I believe, in this audience because it's a tech audience. But what was the baseline that made you consider a new document management system solution?
Well, at the time, we had been a Google Apps customer. We were an early adopter, so we'd been on it for 5 years. And we had made the commitment to try to be cloud as much as we could. But really, the impetus for this was kind of interesting now thinking about it, given all the ways I use AODocs now, was that I had an aging Lotus Notes repository called Lotus Notes Quicker, and you have to really go back in time to figure out what that was. But from your perspective, it was thousands of databases in a Lotus Notes proprietary format that was UI-based. It had about 4 terabytes of data. Of the thousands and thousands of documents in there, there were up to 300 versions per document, and we wanted to move those. We needed to get out because basically IBM was going to pull the plug. We kept it as long as we could. And we needed to migrate that with all of the features intact. So we weren't asking for much. I wanted a migration. I wanted all of the documents. I wanted all of the versions, along with the metadata associated with each version. And I wanted them to be completely in the same hierarchy and permissions as they were when they were in the other interface. And that's all I needed.
That's all you needed? And
that's all I needed. We're very pushy where we're at. Yeah.
And Stefan and team made it happen, or what were the key features that you have started to use at AODocs?
We went out looking to see, does anybody do that? Does anyone migrate what was at that point an 8-year-old product? and take it out of Lotus Notes and move it anywhere. I didn't even care where it was, USB stick, it would have been fine. And it became quickly apparent that that wasn't an easy thing to find. And we discovered that AODocs had a migration tool for Lotus Notes, not specifically for Quicker. So we talked to them. And then we were pleasantly surprised that not only did they have a migration tool, but their end state for migration, Google Drive was an option, and using the Google infrastructure was an option. And they all supported some of the features that I didn't mention, which, oh, by the way, we need workflow associated with this. And, we need to be able to get all the components and put Humpty Dumpty back together again. And we need check-in, check-out capability of all of these documents, which is why we had kind of written off Google Drive, because we knew it couldn't do any of the above. And so then we started the inquisition of AODocs.
And then could you speak to what was the impact at Seagate?
So we went with a migration tool. The impact, first of all, was huge. It did what we asked it to. If you were to look at a 10-year-old Lotus Quicker, and we had to do it in place because some of them were legally bound to not lose the data. If you were to look at a single document, look at the permissions and see where it was located and who had access to, you would find the exact same thing in AODocs. You would find, if you wanted to know what version 201 looked like and who edited it and what day they edited it, to this day you would still see exactly that. They provided the web UI that the group was familiar with. We actually didn't want them to look at Google Drive, even though they could have with the product. We said, no, we want the web UI. It looks virtually identical. We were able to create templates that looked identical. And for those databases that had workflow, the workflow is there. It does, and in fact, can do more than it could ever do in Lotus Notes. So that combined with the metadata, and I want to underscore the metadata. In the Lotus Notes environment, when you have a record, there can be 6 files associated with that record, and there can be different properties associated with the file. So it wasn't a Google Drive equals 1 file and AODocs equals 1 file. I wanted him to put the record up there, point it to the exact 6 files that were associated and all of the fields that were associated with that file. And they did that with very little. I scheduled all kinds of training sessions. We're talking about 1,500 users. I was ready. I was going to have to train them. I ended up canceling most of them. I only had to do like 3 or 4. I recorded them, and people did not ask questions. They just kept working.
Excellent. Very good, very good. And I know how pleased you are with AODocs. Thank you, Rosemary. Stefan, last question for you, and maybe short bulleted form. What are the key differentiators of AODocs, and why should everybody consider looking into AODocs and visiting you at your booth or later?
Yeah, so the key things, and I kind of touched to that in the beginning, is we're combining these, all of the features that Rosemary was talking about. We're replacing SharePoint, replacing all of those old systems with the same feature level and sometimes even superior feature levels, but in a way that respects the Google user experience, that makes it easy for the end user. So the feedback we get from all of our customers, oh my God, this is so much easier than SharePoint, this is so much easier than Lotus Notes, this is so much easier than OpenText, and so on and so forth. We bring those systems to the Google environment, to the Google user experience, and it gets them to be so much more productive. So it's really our integration with the G Suite, our embracement of the simplicity, the flexibility, the collaboration aspects of the G Suite, and even more than that, we've built an open system. So we think of AODocs not just as a box in which you can put documents. It's a platform, so it's integrated with G Suite, obviously, but it's also integrated with the rest of the ecosystem. We work with DocuSign. We can have a document in AODocs, send it to DocuSign, get it back signed. We work with Virtru. You can have the Virtru encryption engine that was just described by Charles and apply it to AODocs content and have AODocs enforce the encryption for you so that you get the compliance levels that you need to have. And even getting further, all of the new things that you've seen in this conference about GCP, the DLP features, the image recognition features, all of these, we are bringing that into AODocs to add even more value to your documents.
Thank you, Stefan. I know there's so many features that you have. Could you please hand over the...
I could continue for 2 hours.
I know. And I would encourage everyone to speak to Stefan. He's also very knowledgeable about the GCP world of ours. But we're switching gears, going back into the UCaaS space, and I'm very happy that we have the AVP of Alliances from RingCentral, Eric Boren, here with us today. Hello, Eric.
Thanks, Darson.
And who did you bring with you today?
I brought Mac Karami, who heads up IT infrastructure at the Fossil Group, which is the watch company and wearable company you guys are all familiar with.
Excellent. Welcome, Mac.
Thank you.
I don't think we need to have like a proper introduction about Fossil because everybody knows the brand probably.
Very good.
But with regards to the baseline, when did you consider switching telco providers and actually looking into a solution that's more UCaaS and more progressive like RingCentral?
So we're a global company. Our products are sold in more than 100 countries globally. We have 600 retail stores globally, with 300 in US and Canada and the rest in EMEA and APAC. A few years ago, we started working on our omnichannel. To implement the correct omnichannel, you needed very nice, steady, stable infrastructure. To do that, at that time, our retailer stores had only 3 POTS lines with no IVR capability, no good functions. So we talked to Cisco, we talked to Avaya back then, but the price was really out of our range. What we did, we went ahead and talked to AT&T. And AT&T came up with AT&T came to us and said, hey, we have this product that we think you're going to like. It's in your price range, and one of the local retailers in Dallas area uses it as well. So that had the journey started.
Excellent.
Okay.
And Mac, you adopted communications in the cloud, which is critical to the productivity of your stores, in 2014. So you were really leading the curve in terms of moving communications to the cloud. What kind of comfort did you give to your key stakeholders in Fossil Group that this was the right move to make?
Okay. So I'm an old telco guy. I used to work for a carrier. So I knew how hard it is for partners to get certified. Mm-hmm. So one of the major selling points to my customers, internal customers, was that AT&T has certified RingCentral. And another one, we discussed it with the local retailer. We discussed to see how they're comfortable with it. Mm-hmm. And another, I promised our internal customers that we will have a solid plan. We will test everything, and we will in our lab, and we will not implement it without they actually see it for themselves.
Excellent.
And so, Mac, what use cases were critical to your evaluation for Fossil?
IVR was number one. Basically, productivity was very, very important to us. We did not want our retail employees to waste their time on phone. So if they were assisting a customer and they would get a call, the caller could actually select a button and they would talk to somebody live in our Richardson office. In addition, we enabled 8-digit dialing. So if we have, in New York, we have 5 stores right next to each other. So if they wanted to help a customer, instead of calling the store by the old NPA NXX, they could just use the store number and call them. So that was very nice. And also they could call corporate, and corporate can call 8-digit dialing by just the store numbers.
Excellent. Thank you. Eric, I would have a question for you.
Yeah.
I know that you have so many features within the entire RingCentral product suite and like integration points that we have with G Suite with you, and Fossil might not be using all of them. Are there any special features that you would like to talk to the audience about that Fossil might not use? Anything to
Yeah,
add?
just to give you a flavor, I mean, we're the largest pure play communication provider in our space. And so that allows us to invest tremendously. We invest about $60 million a year in all the enterprise applications that you might want. So for sales, you could use Salesforce or ProsperWorks to automatically log the activity of all your calls into the system of record, thereby kind of removing manual processes, making it more productive, and reducing human error. And then if you move on to service management, it could be ServiceNow or Zendesk or general productivity. Both customers and partners of ours are Box and Okta, and we work in conjunction to create these unified experiences that effectively create digital processes that were previously manual. So that's one of the big, we basically can cater to all these use cases. In fact, I was thinking about the previous panel up here. We have specialty providers even in recruiting that do bulk SMS to recruits to push them through the funnel for recruiting purposes as well.
Excellent, excellent.